This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 324 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Markus Schubert's bad day at the office, Julian Brandt's magic backheels piss shoot 2021, and my wife will reveal the winner of our Marco Reus t-shirt giveaway at the end of the show. And for all that and more, join me once again, Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing in the mountains of Colorado?
Hey Stefan, I am doing well, dodging mountain lions and black bears today, so all is good. How are you doing?
I'm very well myself, thank you very much. And also here, the editor-in-chief of Spielverlagerung.com, Konstantin Eckner. Are you in Berlin right now, or where are you quarantined?
That's absolutely right. I'm not quarantined. I was in Frankfurt last weekend for the match. So I am allowed to go outside.
But the match was in Dortmund, Konstantin.
No, the other match. The evening match, you know.
Right. So, did you get a chance to watch the derby?
Yes, I did. I had to.
Live or real life?
No, I had to watch it live because it was squeezing between the end of the derby and getting access to the Frankfurt Stadium, which was a journey in its own right. I had to do some commentary on BBC World Service to get out the idea that Dortmund is unbeatable across the season and will win the championship.
Which is obviously the absolutely correct take.
The only take.
Yes, the only take, really. Before we start the show, really, I am elated to announce that this episode is sponsored by @Kutzi17 on Twitter. He sends his greetings from Austria. And if you want to sponsor an episode as well, go to patreon.com/theyellowwolf for more information. Now, let's talk about the winners of the 180th Revier Derby. That's Borussia Dortmund, and it was their 800th Bundesliga win. Meanwhile, for Schalke, it was goal 2,500, 2,501, 2,502, and 2,503 they have conceded. So happy anniversary to both teams. Matthias, I have joked that this was not the Revier Derby, but the Reverb Derby because of all the echo and reverb in the empty stands. So before we talk about the game and emphatic 4-0 shellacking of Schalke 04, maybe a couple of words on how you perceived this eerie, quiet atmosphere, or lack thereof.
Well, you know, at first it's a little bit weird when you realize the teams that are playing, but I'll be honest, I mean, I got engrossed in the game and watching it, and after a while kind of forgot about all of that. What's interesting, though, is also you tend to catch a lot of things that are being said, which is kind of interesting. And I noted it during the game. I said, this reminds me of a long time ago when I was young and played like Bezirksliga and Landesliga in Westfalen, when you had maybe 100 people come to a game on the good days. And it sounded a lot like that. And the one thing, like, my son was sitting next to me watching it, and he's like, wow, I thought there are no fans allowed. Why is it so loud? I said, well, that's what it actually sounds like. Those are the players and the coaches and the yelling, and that's something we tend to forget or not even quite realize if you're just watching it through television, because the crowd noise drowns all of that out for the most part.
Yeah, Konstantin, was the key to victory the fact that Mats Hummels could communicate with Torgen Hazard on the other wing, or Julian Brandt or whatever? But no, honestly, how did you perceive it on your, I don't know, iPad or however you were watching this?
I mean, of course, we are talking about the Revier Derby, but I got the first look inside another stadium, and I mean, it was basically the same, although I think every stadium has its own kind of echoing. because of the shape and the architecture is of course different stadium to stadium. I thought like watching it on TV, I thought, for instance, the Leipzig stadium was a little bit more echoey.
Yes, definitely.
At least it appeared that way. But we also had to think about the miking in this inside the stadium and stuff like that. So it is not what it might feel like if you are there. I mean, in Frankfurt, for instance, you could basically hear it loud and clear, but I think in our stadiums, like the Olympiastadion in Berlin, it gets a little bit different because it gets spread out wider. I thought the radio, at least on TV, yes, of course, you could clearly hear that players could communicate much better than you would usually do, especially during a real derby when there's really a lot of crowd noises. But on the other hand, I don't know. I mean, if you listen closely, also to other matches, sometimes that wasn't really commands or instructions you could hear. It was more like animal noises, very like caveman-like sometimes. So I don't know if it really improves the communication. I mean, if you say, or if you talk about, let's say, Mats Hummels communicating with Torgen Hazard, is it really that smart to give an instruction to Hazard across the field where, like, of course, the opponent can also hear what he's telling his teammate. So, I mean, maybe you have to come up with some kind of secret language. That would be something. I mean, otherwise you might just give away all the things you want to do.
What if Mats Hummels starts to yell Omaha?
Yes, of course. I mean, he should. Of course, but with a distinct accent, of course.
Yes, of course, a very distinct accent. Matthias, a couple of things actually did change. I don't have in front of me, but I was listening to the Stahlcast from The Athletic earlier. And they were talking about that the net playing time rapidly increased with the lack of spectators. Do you have any explanation or theory why this might be, why there are fewer interruptions?
No. I mean, maybe...
Okay.
I mean, it's... I guess it boils down to a question that both Lucien Favre and David Wagner were asked after the match. They said, does the lack of crowd help more technically stronger teams than ones that rely so much on emotion? And, there was also the discussion, I forget who it was that said it during the game or after the game, I don't remember, but it was saying, referees should feel less psychological pressure, even though Dennis Isaacson said not having a crowd doesn't help us at all. I don't believe that. I think that does. All of that psychologically plays into it. And maybe they're just able to focus more. I mean, I don't know. I think that's more a coincidence, a statistic taken in a vacuum than anything else. I just, and honestly, of all the stats that are out there, that's probably one I really just don't care about.
Yeah, fair enough. Players who will have to run a little bit more within 90 minutes might actually care about it, but that's not me, so I don't really care either. It was just interesting to bring up, I thought. Konstantin, before we talk about the antics of Dortmund's attacking players, I wanted to ask you about the shapes and the positional play of either team, because I saw a lot of times when Mats Hummels or other defenders had a very vertical pass to the central midfielders or to the, as Lucien Favre called them at the press conference, the false double 10 of Brandt and Hazard. Do you think that was down to a good positional play by Dortmund or horrendous spatial awareness by Schalke, or both?
The latter. To make it short. I mean, it is because they tried these half space passes or often half space passes all the time, and in that kind of formation, it comes naturally to you. Thing is that usually these lanes are shut down by opponents, not by Schalke, which I mean, like in a tremendous way, managed to sit somewhat deep, but also be wide open. That's was kind of magic how they defended Dortmund and Dortmund's build-up. So yeah, that was. I mean, of course, someone like Brandt has to pick the right spot for his positioning, but that's. I mean, I expect that from him. So not much praise here, because usually against a lot of teams they would just shut down these gaps and would say nope, not here, or they would let them open for a moment and then intercept Hummels or Piszczek, the pass from Hummels or Piszczek, which then Hummels or Piszczek would never do again or not do again for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes. So, but Schalke was tremendous in not defending, but pretending to be trying to defend. So it was...
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The only Schalke chance that I really can remember is the header of Caligiuri, and that sort of started with the Hummels vertical pass, which was intercepted by Weston McKennie, and then Manuel Akanji sort of cleared the cross right into Caligiuri's feet or whatever, and that's when Roman Bürki had to make a save. Otherwise, I don't remember too many clear-cut scoring chances from Schalke. I think it was still scoreless at that point, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, otherwise, it was really significant to see how easy Dortmund had it to just carve Schalke open without. It was just weird because there was not much pressure from Schalke, but also no compactness at the same time. So usually you want to achieve at least one of the two. So yeah, I agree with you, Konstantin. It really was weird. And I thought the first goal that Dortmund scored was quite a beauty in many ways. What was interesting about it is that Lukas Piszczek basically did the same as Hummels or Akanji or whatever, is that he sort of carried the ball to the inside in reaction to the run that Julian Brandt was making, and then had this diagonal ball, and obviously that back heel that Brandt then had in the path of Hazard was one of the prettiest plays of the entire match day. And then Torgen Hazard, I think a lot of people will remember, had a cross to Erling Haaland, which was reminiscent of the cross of Christoph Metzelder in 2007 to Alexander Frey. So that was pretty cool. Matthias, the first half hour went by sort of almost uneventful, but then Dortmund had this one really brilliant move. Were you ever nervous that Schalke could do any damage against the black and yellows?
No, honestly, Schalke didn't make me nervous. It's the least nervous I've ever been in a Revier derby, if I actually think about it. I mean, the first few moments, maybe, because it's that slight anticipation, but no, I wasn't really worried that Schalke were going to make life difficult for Dortmund. I wasn't sure about rustiness, especially early, so my greater concern was Dortmund was going to make life difficult for Dortmund. And not because of some weird tropish storyline of, oh, they're so bad defensively and blah, 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 blah mentality. Not at all, but just rustiness. You haven't played for a while. I mean, think about how the first matches happen during summer training camp or the first few weeks in the Bundesliga. It's just not that sharp. And there was a little bit of that, a little bit of sloppiness, some errant passing, but it seems that Dortmund regained their composure much quicker than Schalke. I don't think Schalke regained their composure for 90 minutes. But Dortmund did get into it, and that was kind of one of those, the important first goal because it gave Dortmund confidence, and then they really started playing because they realized Schalke can't. Schalke, there's nothing there. They're not strong defensively. They've got abject goalkeeping, who, yes, I know I said I feel bad for the kid, but, still. And then at the same time, there's zero creativity in that Schalke side. There's no build-up. If Weston McKennie and Amin Harit are your hopes for creativity, you've got some massive, massive issues.
Yeah, I honestly was a little bit surprised to see Mahmoud Dahoud start next to Thomas Delaney in defensive midfield. Konstantin, how did you see that work out for Dortmund? How happy were you with Mo Dahoud and Delaney, who obviously made his first game since the other Revier derby? So it's been a while. What's your view on that double pivot and sort of the double 10 with Hazard and Brandt in front of that? construct. I think in possession, Dortmund was like a 3-2-4-1 formation, at least according to Favre.
Yeah, I was also a little bit surprised to see Dahoud. Quite frankly, just because I thought that Favre especially doesn't have much trust in him anymore. And given the circumstances and everything, I thought Favre would go with someone like Brandt. So not that Brandt is necessarily the much superior player on every aspect, but in a couple of aspects. But it just Brandt looks just more ready in general. So it's more like if you have Brandt as a center midfielder, usually I would say, all right, there's more reliability there. I mean, not like Brandt hasn't had some bad matches this season. I mean, a lot of good ones, but also somewhere it's just not visible, and in center midfield that's probably not something you can really make up for. But I thought that Dahoud was all right. Delaney did quite well. So yeah, I mean it worked out, but they weren't really challenged by Schalke that much, because this, especially the center midfield, was just horrendous. I mean, and no matter in the first half where Schalke played with a back three and basically two center midfielders, I mean McKennie and Serra, and then in the second half with McKennie, in center midfield position, and Caligiuri and Serra in the middle for a while and stuff like that. So they weren't really challenged. Even in situation where I would thought them would be thinking that maybe they are outnumbered, but it's just Schalke couldn't capitalize on anything like that. And as for the two secondary strikers, the two wingers, hybrid players behind Haaland, yes, I mean, we know what Hazard can do, and I think he showed what he's capable of, the good and the bad. Basically here, Brandt has had a couple of underwhelming performances playing in a higher position, playing on the left wing, or playing as a number 10, close to Haaland, or close to the center forward. So that's why I think that match against Schalke was really not a breakout moment or something, because it was only Schalke and they played so badly. But at least gave me some hope that Brandt could be valuable playing higher up the field. But also, if Sancho is ready, if Gio Reyna gets back on the field, then it's not like a necessity to have Brandt playing high up the field. He could move back into the center midfield position. Of course, Marco Reus being out for how long? Probably at the end of the season. So Brandt should always be an option for that number 10 position, basically that Marco Reus role. But I think he, especially right now, because he has shown that he can do better than in some of the matches earlier this year, where he was not really a factor playing close to Haaland, or close next to Hazard, Sancho.
Yeah, it was really nice to see how quick Julian Brandt was thinking on the field, and how his awareness for space and teammates really helped him to make very rash decisions on the ball, and very quick passes. So yeah, it looked for him all very natural, and made playing football look very easy, and that is obviously one of the hardest things to do in this game. Matthias, obviously that was a very, very successful derby for Dortmund. The 4-0 win is, I think, the highest margin since 1966. So that's a whole long time ago. So I guess we can talk a little bit about the attack overall. I mean, I think Julian Brandt was involved in every goal, directly or indirectly. Rafael Guerreiro was. Torgan Hazard had a goal and assist. Erling Braut Haaland, obviously, on the scoring sheet, and is now, I think, the third player in double figures. So that means Dortmund are the only league team right now with 3 goal scorers in the double figures, which is an impressive feat. The other two are Jadon Sancho with 14 and Marco Reus with 11. So how much fun did you have watching this team play football?
Well, not only did it sound like a walk in the park, it was a walk in the park. It was almost surprising, to be honest. There were questions I saw afterwards: were Dortmund just that brilliant, or was Schalke so bad, or was it both? Well, obviously it's both. Schalke were abject, but Dortmund were just that good. They put in the best performance, I believe, on the match day. Best total performance, also if you include defensively. Yes, they were helped by the fact that Schalke really wasn't able to do much. But it was just a fantastic overall team performance. Everybody looked solid. There were no moments of what's going to happen. Even when Dahoud did play a little bit of a weird ball early on in that Caligiuri free kick right at the beginning, where you go, oh crap, of course it's going to be this idiot who I still don't know why he plays in the Bundesliga, because he's not really that good. But hey, it didn't happen, and everything worked out swimmingly. It was just fantastic to watch them play together. And as much as I think having Marco Reus would make it even better and would be nice, they don't seem to be missing him at this point. And that, of course, is good for the team overall. And I would say it's also good for Marco Reus, because it just eases a little bit of the pressure that he sometimes puts on his own shoulders. But it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that all being said, Dortmund's expected goals weren't that high. I think like 1.67 or so, which goes to show. I mean, they were also very efficient at taking their chances. They scored with all 4 shots on target and only had 11 in total. So it's not the most shots Dortmund had this campaign, obviously. So kudos to them for the efficiency. I think the best goal when it comes to technique was the 4-0 of Guerrero, where he just had to use his left foot, because obviously the right limb is just that piece of meat that dangles down his body, I guess. So that outside of the boot goal was quite delicious, I have to say. But Konstantin, do you think that Dortmund has found a balance now overall, and I mean kept it going throughout this hiatus, which really can help them maybe challenge Bayern for the title? Because if you look at this game, you obviously see also Rafael Guerrero putting in a really good performance on the wing, and I think that is something that really helps when you don't only have your chance creation and whatnot go through the middle, but have someone on the wing as a wing back that really can score goals. I think I just talked about the players with 10 goals to their name or more. Rafael Guerrero might be the next one to break through. He has, I think, 7 goals right now. So maybe talk a little bit about him and how his ability helps shape the balance of Dortmund.
Well, yes. Surely, I don't know what the question really was, but it was something with Guerrero, I guess. Yes.
Well, the initial question is, are Dortmund a well-balanced side right now? That's the question.
I don't know. I have to be honest. I don't know, because Schalke was so bad. It's just like the same. I have a hard time. Like after that match, they have a hard time judging Dortmund and judging Gladbach. Why? Because they just, I mean, it was like beating at that horse for the two of them, for the both of them. This was like, what was really going on? I don't know. I would like to wait for the next match, of course, against Wolfsburg. We will talk about it to see how could a match also look like. I mean, because Dortmund was just cruising through Schalke after the first 30 minutes or so, after the first goal, basically. That gives me hope that they are more or less on top of their game, as much as you can be on top of your game under these circumstances, which is a good thing, because I think there are other teams in the league who have really struggled to get out of the starting block, because situation is not that easy, less training and all the stuff that's going on. So that might be really the case, that Dortmund is much better at this point than other teams and can really benefit from the situation, or maybe not, or maybe Schalke will not win another match this season, maybe, because they were just so bad. I mean, I can see Paderborn beating them if they play like that. But going to Guerrero, I think that has been the case for quite a while. If Guerrero is really on top of his game, if he's really at 100%, playing in the left wing back position, not in a left back position, yes, he can be really valuable to the balance of this Dortmund team. Absolutely, and much more than Hakimi. Hakimi is someone who can really provide a few highlights, can also be a little bit of a liability. Guerrero does not have to be a liability, given his skills, but also his football IQ, and can also contribute to Dortmund's attacking power. I mean, don't expect him to score twice now moving forward at every match. Of course not. I mean, he is not even one player who has to score for Dortmund to be winning. But yes, Guerrero at the top of the game is really available, and that was the Guerrero situation in the past few years was really that Dortmund was on the verge of giving him away, of letting him go, given his performances, which would have been justifiable. But there is always the hope that Guerrero would have this breakthrough moment, and we would see again the Portugal Euros winning Guerrero.
Yeah, and the good news is now Dortmund obviously have extended the contract with him a couple of months ago.
Sure.
So
situation has changed. I mean, obviously, I was talking about last summer or something.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. But it's quite a significant development for Dortmund, I would say, and they are very lucky to have such a guy there. So yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't have signed Nico Schulz if there was much trust in Guerrero.
Exactly.
This summer or so.
Exactly.
I mean, the 20 million for Nico Schulz was just because, basically, we don't really have a left wing back or even left back because Schmelzer is old and, Favre doesn't really trust him anymore. I mean, he probably sees him as a locker room leader or something, but not really as. I mean, he got 3 minutes against Schalke, so at least that was something.
The human victory cigar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Slas would say.
Look at him. I mean, he basically the appearance. He looks like someone who's just light up a cigar on the field. No, but basically that was why they spent so much money for Nico Schulz, was because Guerrero not really an option. Hakimi, yes, but he's only on loan, and he's also he might be. Or Favre has to use him on the right side as well, and so yeah, we need another left wing back. And now no one talks about Nico Schulz. Of course, our issues also, and Guerrero is the man on the left side. So yeah, that's how things change so quickly, I guess.
Yeah, I'm obviously, well, not obviously, but usually I don't like to highlight individual performances in games like that because you would have to highlight almost every performance because I think overall Dortmund played very well compared to Schalke, obviously. But Matthias, maybe words on Thorgan Hazard, who showed that next man up mentality quite well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, I think, fortunate that, it's not fortunate that Gio Reyna got injured, but you know what I mean. It was fortunate for Hazard, and I think probably fortunate for Dortmund because he had an absolutely fantastic match, one of his best ones so far since playing for Dortmund, and showed. I mean, Brandt was involved in all the goals. Hazard was involved in most of them, and he shows also his flexibility and his intelligence once again, and another reason why Dortmund brought him in, unlike obviously Nico Schulz. I mean, the concern is, the current concern that I have is that Favre is so enamored in very raw Gio Reyna, who's a good player, but does still make very boneheaded mistakes that Thorgan Hazard does not make, that he's maybe too enamored with the kid, and so Hazard, who is at this point in his career still significantly better than Gio Reyna, gets left out, and you miss performances like this. But obviously that didn't happen, and he was able to play.
Yeah, considering Torgen Hazard's work rate, and I think he can really put on a very dogged display. Konstantin, can you see that Favre molds him into a right wing back at some point? Because I foresee that Hakimi will try to return to Real Madrid, and could this be an in-house solution?
No, not really. I think especially now you saw against. I mean, we just talked about it that against Schalke he was not even a winger. He was, he played more centrally most of the time. Of course, a little bit all fluid in modern football, but still, I don't really think that's what Favre has in mind. And also, given the rumors about Meunier, I guess they got your solution. Not in-house, more Paris-made.
Yeah, fair enough. I could do with a Paris-made croissant right now, to be honest. But yeah, a little bit hard to come by right now in the middle of Philadelphia, to be honest. There are places here called Paris Baguette, but they don't make any good croissants or baguettes, to be honest.
I don't think they are from Paris.
No, they're not. Anyway, before I digress even more and talk myself into trouble, I think it is time to talk about old man Lukas Piszczek extending his contract for another season, and who else better to talk about him than old man Matthias Zug.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was, I think I watched One Football this morning, and they said, since he's like 5,000 years old, I'm like, 5,000 years old? The guy's in his mid-30s. Good Lord. You guys aren't that far away from that either, by the way. So shut up. But as a fellow geriatric, it's great to see. I mean, he's always talked about wanting to go back to Poland, playing there again. He has his football academy in Dortmund, I believe. But his ties are, of course, solidified in Dortmund. I think it's great. It helps. Because he's versatile enough that occasionally they can throw him in at the right back position. He can obviously play at central defender. If he stays healthy, then this is a low to no risk type contract extension. It was good to see. He's one of those guys that I don't know if you can find a Dortmund fan that doesn't love Lukas Piszczek. I mean, he's the one constant, the one that's been there since the early Klopp days. I'm not counting Mats Hummels because he left. So Piszczek is the one constant throughout that entire time frame, and so it's good to see that. It's another year, and I wouldn't be surprised if long term he has some kind of club internal role with Borussia Dortmund, also in terms of maybe outreach, scouting, player development, with an eye for Poland.
Yeah, it was funny. I when I read the news, I needed to go on YouTube and put in the match highlights of Borussia Dortmund's. I think it was a 4-0 or 4-1 win. I can't even remember really. I think it was 4-0 against Karabakh Akdam in the Europa League. I remember I was sitting in the stands on the Osttribüne in the Westfalenstadion, very high up, and I was pretty much on the level of where Lukas Piszczek was playing, and it was his first game. And if you don't remember, back in the day, people weren't entirely sure what to make of this transfer and what exactly Jürgen Klopp's plan was with Lukas Piszczek. So that was really his first game in the wake of Patrick Vomoilela, who I think picked up an injury or so. Anyway, so yeah, that was the first time I got to see, and everyone else got to see Lukas Piszczek, and it looked very promising. And I think he got the assist for the 3-0 against Karabakh Akdam with the like a half-field cross to Lucas Barrios, and obviously I also remember Shinji Kagawa scoring a brace in this game, but even better is just the absolutely pathetic goalkeeping there. So that was quite hilarious. So if you feel like it to watch Lukas Piszczek's first actions in the black and yellow, go to YouTube and put in BVB versus Karabakh Akdam or something like that, and it should spit out the right game. Anyway, so Konstantin, do you have any words on Lukas Piszczek becoming more and more a Dortmund legend?
No, it's great. I think one of the unsung heroes, not completely unsung, but I think you get the picture. That he, even in the glory days of Jürgen Klopp Dortmund, wasn't like the one vocal point of Dortmund. It was more like, Piszczek, one of the good workers in the team. Basically, him and Schmelzer were taken for granted at some point. That was just they were the two fullbacks at Dortmund doing that job. Of course, highlights of his career. I guess neutralizing Cristiano Ronaldo in a couple of matches, and also his ongoing battle with Franck Ribéry over 10 years or so. I don't know, but it was like 4 years. Of course, he against Ribéry at all these Dortmund Bayern matches, and did well most of the time. Sometimes he, of course, got fooled by Ribéry, as many defenders. But also in the couple and in these Real Madrid encounters, he was also doing pretty well for himself, given that he played against Ronaldo. So yeah, there was career highlights, and now he's getting into legend territory. I can see that he might slip down a notch or so in the pecking order. I think that's possible. Next season, maybe the season after. Also, if he wants to keep ties with Poland, I think that Dortmund is much better option than, going to the US or to Japan or something, and like being tens of thousands of miles away from home. I think if he becomes much more of a veteran type of player who doesn't play that much, then he can also do maybe stuff in Poland or whatnot. I think there are options to do it. Or if he wants to slide into some kind of assistant coaching role at the youth academy or something like that, then I think there are options to do that after a while. You've seen it with other players who are also legends.
Marcel Schmelzer is basically a player's coach right now. So
yes, you get these kind of deals basically. You still have to go to training and be ready to go. But also you can do other things and outside things, or maybe get a coaching license or what else. I think you get a little bit of slack. And also Piszczek, I think also one of the more defining moments of his career was not moments but periods in his career was in summer of, or basically the fall, the spring and summer of 2013, when he was. He was hurting really, really badly. His hip injury was really also showing. He had bags under his eyes. It was really visible that he had issues there. But still played the Champions League final. So I guess that's also one of the moments I will remember, because Piszczek was really fighting through that injury, that hip injury. Where he needed really a long time to fully recover. It took him a couple of years. He played, but that's like with football and with a lot of professional athletes, that they fight through injuries to some extent. But of course, I think at one point he couldn't take it anymore because it was too bad, and the pain was there for too long.
Yeah, he underwent surgery basically not the next day, but very quickly after the Champions League final.
The night of the Champions League final.
Yeah, in the center circle, once the final whistle was blown, the scalpels came out.
Robin almost immediately pulled out the scalpel.
Right. Yeah. So I'm obviously glad. I think he said that he wants to end his career at Dortmund, but you never know how this goes. If he still feels an itch later on, and Dortmund say, can't play you anymore. So maybe he'll move on then to, I don't know, a Polish team or wherever. But before we close the Schalke segment, Matthias, I was talking about this being the biggest game for Schalke this season, and if I was going to be right, and maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but you can answer that. Is Schalke's season now practically over for them? They now have, I think, just won one game in the Rückrunde, which was the first one against Gladbach, and since then it's been just losses and draws. So an absolutely terrible run, and now I think they dropped down to 8th place. I don't know if we can talk about them playing for the Europa League or whatnot, but do you think that Dortmund sort of ended Schalke's season right there on last Saturday?
Well, I mean, the bottom teams are too bad for Schalke to drop down that far. Schalke is still good enough to not quite be that bad. The teams challenging for the Europa League, it's so inconsistent. I mean, we're playing against a Europa League contender this next match day in Wolfsburg. But Schalke, I think they could maybe still get, that 6th spot, but it's really just one spot available for Europe because the top 5 teams are all competing with one another. And I do still have this dream of Leverkusen leapfrogging Leipzig and Leipzig being in the Europa League next season, if there even is a Europa League. But Schalke, now they had a good start to the season. It was a completely different feeling of where Dortmund and Schalke were respectively when they met in the last Revier derby. And it seems to completely have flipped in that both teams are now playing to the level that they actually are. Meaning Schalke
It might actually be a bit too harsh on Schalke. I mean, they're so pathetic. I think there's a bit more quality in that team than currently showing, but fair enough.
No, I mean, they've regressed to what they are.
Okay.
They're a mid-table side. That a great start to the season when everybody was saying, oh, even Dortmund fans were like, oh, we wish we had David Wagner and not Lucien Favre. The slip isn't on David Wagner. I think the high that they had was maybe more on him. But the overall quality of the players is just not there. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm an American soccer fan. I think Weston McKennie is trash. But that's just me. I think he's completely overrated. I don't think he's that good of a player. But it speaks to the quality of U.S. soccer and Schalke. And maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on the guy, but I just don't think he's that good. He's a good trier. And, if that's what Schalke is, a team of triers, then you don't deserve to play in Europe because that doesn't help the Bundesliga or you. And they are, as we all know, in major financial problems. They are completely overspending wage-wise for players that don't justify the wage that they get, and definitely missing out on the Champions League yet again, will only send them further down that negative spiral and into mid-table mediocrity, where I just think they're going to sit for a while as long as they have the incompetence at the top running that club. Now, not David Wagner, who I think is a very good coach, but I'm talking about, obviously, Clemens Tönnies and the people right around him and even the people running the sports side, the football side of Schalke. It's just a train wreck. And if they don't change that, then honestly, in the next few years, unless the Bundesliga regresses dramatically like the season they finished second, Schalke are going to be thankful if they finish 8th, because they are on a very slippery slope, where if you think that someone like Burgstaller is your answer for scoring goals, well, then you've got major, major, major problems. And which real player with real ambition is going to want to go to Schalke now? Honestly, nobody. Nobody whatsoever. So, especially when Dortmund, the significantly more shining light, is so close geographically, why go to Gelsenkirchen at all? For any reason, honestly, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
100% correct. You know, the thing with Schalke is they're in such financial trouble, and due to the coronavirus and the lack of revenue, I think they are going to be in even more trouble going forward. And if they don't watch out, you know, they could be the next HSV or Werder Bremen of once great yet mismanaged clubs that go down to the second division. I mean, I'm not saying the Schalke are definitely going to get relegated, but you know, it can happen. And if you look at you know, 1 win in 9 games run in this Rückrunde, you know, doesn't really bode well for Schalke. So they really need to get things together.
I'll be honest, Stefan. I'll go one step further. If they don't get it together, take a look at Kaiserslautern. Just take a look at Kaiserslautern, and that's where you will be, Schalke, if you're not very careful.
All right, so enough about the losers. It's time to move on to the next match day. And I think overall, as a Dortmund fan, if you are not completely turned off by the empty stadiums, if you look at the table, that's a very juicy proposition because A, you're 4 points behind Bayern Munich in the table and have everything to play for there. And if you look down, you're also only 4 points off 5th place. So it's really crunchy up there. And Dortmund are right in the sweet spot right now in 2nd place with hopes and dreams still alive. And obviously VfL Wolfsburg have been very good for Dortmund recently. If I'm not mistaken, in the last 9 games, Wolfsburg only has 1 draw and 8 losses. So Wolfsburg have lost their last 4 home games against Dortmund, and scoring differential is 11-2 there. So I think overall Wolfsburg are in a better form right now, and sort of counter to what Schalke are doing. So it makes sense that they are now in 6th place and Schalke are down in 8th. Wolfsburg are on an unbeaten run of 7 games, have 4 wins and 3 draws in that period. And on the last game day, they beat FC Augsburg 2-1. So, Konstantin, you were talking about this game being more of a challenge than Schalke. And just looking at what I just read off my screen here, I think very much confirms that. So, what kind of team are Wolfsburg, and how will they lose against Dortmund this time again?
I mean, I don't know if it's bigger challenge to Dortmund. I don't know. It's just, you know, we should wait for the outcome or the performance Dortmund have, and just the outcome of this match to really confirm the level Dortmund is at right now. Because
or we could just wait until Tuesday where they play Bayern Munich. So
yeah, but we need something before Tuesday, right? I mean, because Tuesday is the big game, and we need something.
I think
before
Wolfsburg are a good test. I think they're a more capable team than Schalke.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, I don't hope so.
Quite frankly, no.
They could be terrible.
Because before Tuesday you need a challenge. I mean, that's like, of course you need one. It's, I mean, what's the other option? It's like, I don't know, going from journeyman to fighting Tyson Fury. Like, that's not how it works. So it would be.
Well, Dortmund can choose how good Wolfsburg are on that given day.
Well, it would help. It would be helpful if Wolfsburg at least show something and, you know, put up a fight against Dortmund. So Dortmund has to do something. Has to do more than against Schalke, where they could just cruise for I don't know, 15 minutes or something. I mean, it was ridiculous at some point, because I mean, it was still more or less a reveal derby, more or less.
Sort of,
kind of, without fans. So it was a friendly match, reveal derby or something like that. Wolfsburg, of course. I mean, I think Glasner, the head coach, is one of the better coaches in the Bundesliga right now. Wolfsburg also, I mean, compared to Schalke, for instance, better pressing, more intense pressing, better central midfield. I think Schlager and Arnold, much more creativity there. So, you know, players who can also get out of situations where it appears that they are cornered. I mean, they are much more agile and technically sound to really also, if they are pressured, they can find solutions just from technical and an ability standpoint. So I think there could be a challenge for Dortmund center midfield against them. And also they have, they have, I don't know, Wout Weghorst didn't play against Augsburg, won't play, I think, against Dortmund, I'm not sure. But sometimes they played in a different system with him. With him up front, they played in a different system than they played against Augsburg, which was just your customary 4-2-3-1. But even then, I saw that Brekalo and Steffen, the two wingers, they really have figured out how to get them into situations where they are, or into one-on-one situations against the fullbacks. So will be interesting to see how they do it against Dortmund, because Dortmund plays with a back three. Do they try to get Brekalo, for instance, in a one-on-one situation against Piszczek, which would be interesting? I think a good test also for Piszczek. Or are they basically fanning out them and have Brekalo and Steffen much closer to the sidelines? I don't know. That's just a couple of few questions I have moving forward, because when Wolfsburg played Augsburg just last weekend, Augsburg played basically the same system, or the same formation at least. So if you got Wolfsburg in a 4-2-3-1 and Dortmund in the system with the back three, you got different shapes, and so might have some gaps, which I think Wolfsburg has really find a way to find these gaps in opposing or opponents' formations. So also might be a challenge to Dortmund, or Dortmund will score 2 goals in the first 10 minutes and whatever. But yeah, I think there are a couple of things where Wolfsburg can be a challenge. Playing at home, I actually could see them trying to get a bit more ball possession than they, meaning Wolfsburg, than other Dortmund opponents. But I'm not sure, actually, because sometimes these matches still evolve in a way where Dortmund then have 60% or so. So I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. But Wolfsburg is not a team that shies away from possession immediately right from the kickoff.
Yeah, that's true. Konstantin, I actually now with the rule change that you can make 5 substitutions, I kind of feel obliged to ask you whether Wolfsburg has a good and competent bench. They have the good old power forward, former Dortmund striker Daniel Ginczek, who I think scored the winner against Augsburg. But they also, on the last match day, they had players like Felix Klaus, Roussillon, Robin Knoche, and so on and so forth. Obviously also Tisserand. So obviously I don't know who exactly will play, but if you look at their squad overall, do you think that over 90 minutes they can face a tougher challenge than whatever Schalke was trying to do there?
Glasner didn't use all the 5 substitutions against Augsburg. Looking at who was left on the bench, Tisserand and Knoche are 2 names, but they are 2 center backs, and Wolfsburg, they were going for the win here against Augsburg. So why bring on Knoche or Tisserand? So in terms of attacking power, he brought on also Roussillon, who was on the bench. So there you can see that there is quality on the bench, because I think people consider Roussillon as one of the best fullbacks in the Bundesliga, not playing for Bayern, Dortmund, or Leipzig. They brought on Ginczek and Klaus, and as I said, Wout Weghorst. I'm just trying to check the kicker report if he is still injured, because that's also, of course, that will change they will change things a little bit if he is fit and ready to go, because then it might be the case that Victor or Mehmedi, one of the two, gets benched, and so they have another option for their attacking department to bring on in the second half or so. So I think the bench not too deep, but the couple of players they have on the bench are more or less on equal footing with the starting 11 players.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Matthias, if we look at Dortmund's lineup, Axel Witsel of the people that are injured right now is probably the only one who will recover. Gio Reyna and Emre Can might be out for this game. Not 100% sure. The press conference where Favre may or may not reveal anything is tomorrow, as we are recording this on Thursday. So, as you know, from what we know now, Axel Witsel is back. If so, who would he replace in midfield if he makes the team right away?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of match Favre is anticipating against more difficult to break down side. If that's the case, if he's looking at it as, well, Wolfsburg, they're good defensively. We need a little bit more creative nous in central midfield. Then if Witsel slots back in, I expect Brandt to drop deeper, and then maybe Sancho start right away, and that kind of alleviates that. If he believes he needs a little bit more muscle in midfield, then maybe you've got Witsel Delaney making a return as a double pivot in that match. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it's the former option with Brandt and Witsel then in a double pivot, better said, and then you start Sancho and Hazard behind Haaland.
Yeah, I almost forgot that Jadon Sancho is also very likely to return. I mean, he made a cameo against Schalke, but that wasn't really of much note, to be honest. So, Konstantin, quickly, how do you think the dynamic of Dortmund will change with the introduction of other players?
Just to correct one thing, I was mistaken. Wout Weghorst wasn't injured against Augsburg. He was just suspended because of the fifth booking. So he will be safe, or he's expected to be back in the starting 11 of Wolfsburg, because I thought he was injured, but he wasn't. And it's likely that he will play instead of Victor or Mehmedi. So we got that out of the way. So yeah, I mean, I think Witsel, if he's ready, he will be in the starting 11. I think he's one of the few players at Dortmund right now, just more or less guaranteed a spot in the starting 11. He's at least 95% or so. And other than that, yes, I can see Sancho coming back to the to the starting 11 as well. Can also see Favre sticking to the Hazard Brandt pairing, especially with Witsel back in center midfield. I could see actually Brandt and Hazard starting, and then Sancho coming in as the power substitution in the second half. Which, I mean, I hope so, because I mean, Favre is not known for being the master of substitutions. But on the other hand, because of maybe he has changed his mind a little bit. I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope at least.
If I'm not entirely mistaken, Mats Hummels right now is sitting on 4 yellow cards. So just one alert, as you mentioned, the suspension, that he better watch out to not get that 5th yellow card and miss the Bayern game. That would be very unfortunate. So,
but with Zagadou out,
exactly.
I mean, Balerdi, I don't think so. So yeah, he will play. I guess will be interesting.
No, he will definitely play. I'm just saying, people should look out for.
Okay, I thought you were hinting at him being benched. So no. But it would be interesting. It would be a total Dortmund thing to get for Mats Hummels to get his 5th booking and being suspended against Bayern. That would be totally Dortmund playbook.
Right. So
and then Zagadou injured, and what's then to happen?
Yeah, then you just have Akanji and Balerdi, I guess.
Oh, great!
Or we can already see Namdi Chatli.
Akanji and Balerdi against Lewandowski. That will turn out beautifully.
I'm sure it will. Anyway, let's not jinx anything here. I just wanted to note that. Matthias, anything else to say on that game, or shall we move on to predictions?
I think we can move on to predictions.
All right, then what's your prediction?
I'm predicting a 2-1 victory for Dortmund, where everyone's patience is going to be put to the test.
And you, Konstantin, what are you predicting?
Yeah, also with a close to 1. I mean, without Weghorst back, I think he will score an ugly goal.
Yeah,
as per usual.
I think Dortmund will win this, like, I don't know, 2-1 or so. All right, I guess after the predictions, there's one thing left to announce. And as promised, my wife picked the winner of our Marco Reus t-shirt giveaway. Hello, Christina.
Hello.
I hope there's not too much of a reverb because we are almost in the same room right now. So please, without any further ado, announce who won and will receive the Marco Reus t-shirt.
The winner is Deutsche Stash or Han Forte, and he's hoping to give the shirt to his lady or his dog, Barco Royce.
Yeah, that is very good. So congrats to, I think, St. Louis, right? They are from the St. Louis Borussen.
Yep, correct. St.
So
Louis.
we're saving on that on that shipping fee, aren't we?
I love how the choice is. I'm either giving it to my girlfriend or my dog.
Yeah, I was like, that was written in the letter or something like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, he's worried it won't fit his lady, but it's pretty big.
That's also like he's
That doesn't make it any better.
Oh Jesus! He has to sleep on the couch for the next 2 months, Corona or not, it doesn't matter.
Well, the good news
He will
is
be out on the streets.
there is a good chance this t-shirt will already arrive with dog hairs included. So.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, great, Stefan.
Well, I can't help it. Sammy has a lot of hair that he very greatly distributes in our apartment, so there it is. Anyway, I guess now it's also the perfect time to do the outro. So, Konstantin, you may go first and tell our listeners how to get in touch with you.
Yes, check me out on Twitter as per usual, CC_ECKNER. There you can find my work for the English folks. I will cover the Bundesliga craziness for BBC and ESPN the next couple of weeks, and also for the German folks, I will have a couple of pieces up about lower league football in Germany, what's going on there, because of course, also kind of craziness, not a lot of football, but a lot of politics.
Very well, Matthias, how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and send. I know I'm going to get so many hate comments about my comment about Weston McKennie. So you can direct that on Twitter at Matthias.
Half our listeners.
Yeah, that's yeah. Oh well.
Oh well. Sorry, I talked over you. At Matthias Zug is his Twitter handle. Christina?
My Twitter handle is at Wonderlust with 2 R's.
Very well, and you can find me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter, and if you want to get in touch with all of us, do that via Facebook or Twitter at Yellowwallpod. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google, Amazon, etc., or use your favorite podcatcher, and the RSS feed is also linked on our website, which is theyellowwall.net. And if you want to become a sponsor, again, do that via patreon.com/theyellowwall, and obviously please make sure to read our written content. I just recently translated, for example, the Emre Can interview in the Sportbild, which was very interesting to read, so please check that out. And of course, as always, thank you for listening and stay safe until next time, which is very soon, because the Bayern game is on Tuesday, and maybe we will already be out with the podcast on Sunday. So keep your iTunes, podcatchers, whatever, updated. Until next time, goodbye.